نعم بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. Today we have Hadith Aisha radiallahu anha. We did Hadith Aisha A'tama. So we'll go with the next Hadith, which Hadith Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu. قال إذا اشتد الحر فأبردوا بالصلاة فإن شدة الحر من فيح جهنم متفق عليه. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if the heat becomes extreme, delay the prayer until it becomes cool, as extreme heat is from the hellfire. He said the extreme or the intensity of the heat is from the exhalation of the hell. This hadith reported by Al-Bukhari wa Muslim min hadithi Sa'id ibn Musayyib and Abi Salamah ibn Abdul Rahman and Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. And it said, إِذَا اشْتَدَّ الْحَرِّ, when it became extremely heat, when it is so hot, and that when the rays of the sun is so strong, and you can combine with that what we know here in Houston, humidity, that will be an extremely hot. But the point here is not the humidity of it, but the heat of the sun. The ground became so hot to walk on. The ground is so hot to make sujood on. And imagine the Prophet ﷺ masjid is made of gravel, and there is no carpet, nothing. You know, there is no much even in the roads, shades, because there's no tall buildings to provide shades or trees. It's desert. Usually the gardens and farms and the area where there is trees is not inside the city, it's outside in the skirt of the city. So you can imagine when people walk in kind of these days, in that time, to the masjid, that's a very hot to pray. That's why they even complained to the Prophet ﷺ about how hot it is to make sujood and to go down onto the stand. It's so hot. قال فما أقالنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We asked him to give us excuse, but he didn't. He didn't allow us to pray dhuhr in another time or delay dhuhr extremely late. It would come inshallah. But the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when it is so extreme like that, when it's so hot like that, فأبردوا. What abridu? It comes from bard, which is cool down. So the Prophet ﷺ basically saying to them, delay the salah, delay the dhuhr, until it cools down. The sun cools down or the ground cools down. So people can feel comfortable to walk to the masjid, comfortable to pray. They have khushu', not to be focusing on the heat and basically thinking about it. Speaking of the heat, I don't know if some of you old enough or remember or been to Mecca in the old days, like 25 years ago, more than that. It's more than that for sure. Maybe 35 years ago or so, the marble in Haram, it used to be very hot in the summer. The marbles in Haram, it used to be extremely hot. Especially there is black marbles, where like lions. This is like, I remember when I touch it or I step on it, it's like touching the iron when it's hot. That's how hot it is. Like I still remember getting blistered just by touching it. I don't know why in the world. It looks like nice, like a circle, but it was extremely hot. Even the white one was very hot. Now the way the marble in Al-Haram has two qualities that are very unique about the marbles of Mecca. That each marble is directed to Al-Qibla. So anywhere you are in Al-Haram, just look where's the marble heading, that's Al-Qibla. Even if you can't see Al-Kaaba. Whoever designed this is a genius. That every single marble actually inside the, what do you call it? Every single tile, which is a marble tile, every single tile facing the Qibla. So you just look where's the tile going and just say Allahu Akbar. So that's number one. Number two, if the degree outside is a 200 degree, a'udhu billah, the marble will stay cool. Or the ground will never get hot. No matter how hot, how strong the sun is, it will always basically stay cool at one temperature. Also, it doesn't get too cold. I don't know how they do that, but it keeps one temperature year long, even if it's freezing. And that's something very interesting. And Jazakallah khair, whoever thought of that. It was really a very interesting addition. Anyway, so I can remember how hot it used to be. And I remember one day I was praying next to Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, and I was going with him inside the Masjid al-Haram. So the Shaykh is not like us. Like what I do, we pray in the shade, in the cover area. The Shaykh kept going all the way near Al-Kaaba. He doesn't want to pray in the behind lines. He want to go in the front lines. And there's Dhuhr. So he went all the way near Al-Kaaba, and that's very hot. But you know what? I'm not going to miss the chance to be with the Shaykh, and we were talking. So I went, and the Shaykh had his robe, so he took it off, and he put it on the ground, and he stepped on the top of it, and he started praying. You know, the robe, the bisht, like you put it on the shoulders, kind of respect, like a fancy type of clothes. I'm not going to step on the top of his robe. So even though he stretched it, but what I did, I put my feet underneath his robe, the robe that he was wearing, underneath of it. But it was so hot, and I was like, you know, the whole entire salah. So he noticed it. So what he did, he reached out to my feet and he pulled from underneath his robe and he put it on the top of his robe while we praying. And he moved a little bit, then he grabbed me, like he pulled me near, so my both feet will be on it. Rahimahullah ta'ala. I would never forget that. Yeah, sometimes these small little things like touch your heart, you know, because somebody's thinking. I remember also once I was riding with Shaykh Baz rahimahullah after Fajr, and we get out from the one side of the door, talking. Shaykh Baz blind, so he said, "Come with me in the car." We continue talking in the car. Then I said, I paused for a second. Then he said, "Don't worry, we're gonna go to the other side to pick your shoes." Because he knows that I was thinking about my shoes in the other side of the masjid. And he said, "Don't worry, we're going to go to the other side to go to pick your shoes. Or I can wait for you." I said, "Sheikh, I'll rather spend that time with you." Rahimahullah. So these little things, like, you know, who would think, him thinking about that means a lot. It just humanized the alim, rahimahullah ta'ala jami'an. Anyway, قال فأبردوا بالصلاة, until delay the salah. Which salah is this? Al-Dhuhr. This is salat al-Dhuhr. Obviously, because Fajr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha is not that hot because it's late in the daytime. So ulama rahimahumullah ta'ala said as-salah here, it means salatul dhuhr. There is important rules that I would like at least some of you pay attention to it. التي تدخل على الكلمة like as-salat, alif lam, as-salat. Salah without alif lam. But you put alif lam, so as-salah. This alif lam in Arabic language carry many meanings. And you have to pay attention to it, because it's essential of understanding what the Prophet ﷺ means. So al lil jins, it means all. So if we say as-salah, all kind of salah. An-nas, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, the Lord of al-nas. Some people or all people? All people. Okay? But listen. الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم. Allah said in the Quran, the people who've been told by the people, okay, that they have gathered armies for you. The people here referring to a specific, which is the hypocrites, told the people, which is the Sahaba, that the people gathered. Yani the kuffar of Quraysh gathered. So here, an-nas is not all people, very specific. So that or al, referring to a very specific group, or we call that al-ahdiyah. يعني معهود في الذهن ما هو المقصود. It's known by context what this refer to. So when you say, like in English we say that, so it means specific, there's a specific group of people. Versus a prayer, the prayer. So if you want to translate this literally, a prayer, okay, sometimes comes as a prayer, very general. And a prayer sometimes comes like the prayer, means very specific. How would you know the difference? By the context, by just by reading the full sentence. So here, by the context, we know that as-salat here, not all salawat, because impossible to be Isha or Maghrib or Fajr, it refers to al-Dhuhr prayer. What this hadith, we can learn from this hadith. Number one, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, delay the prayer until it cools down. It doesn't mean delay it forever, or delay it until Dhuhr time finish. So you know what, it's too hot, we're going to pray Dhuhr and Asr together. No, that's nobody understood that from Ahl al-Ilm rahimahullah ta'ala. But the Nabi sallallahu said delay it during the Dhuhr time. So you don't need to pray it in the beginning of the time or in the middle of the time. You pray it what? In the end of the time, or toward the end of the time, or after the first half of the time. Why? Because remember what I told you about the shade. When Dhuhr start, the shade start growing. That's right. And when the shade became equal to the length of the object, that's when Asr time happened. So in the beginning of the time, there is no shade in the road yet, on the alleys of Medina. It is still very hot. But if you wait a little bit, half an hour, 45 minutes, the shade start growing, and that's where people can walk and things cool down. So, and the proof that it's not about what judged this ruling is the time of the salah, not the temperature of basically the environment. Why I'm saying this, nobody can say, Sheikh, but the hadith said, delay the salah until it cools down. What if it doesn't cool down at 5 o'clock? So we wait, that's what the Prophet said. We said, no. You have to pray it before Asr. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Allah have made the salah in certain times. You cannot change this fact. Khabbab radiallahu anhu said in Sahih Muslim, شَكَوْنَا إِلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم حَرَّ الرَّمْضَاءِ فِي جِبَاهِنَا وَأَكُفِّنَا فَلَمْ يَشْكُنَا. We complained to the Prophet about how hot it is to make sujood and put our heads and our hands on the ground because of the heat. And the Nabi sallallahu said, no excuse. You pray. Doesn't matter. Even if it's hot, you pray. So that means they were asking, ulama said, Hadith Khabbab, they were asking to delay it even more than the time of Dhuhr. Yani wait until after Asr. But the Nabi ﷺ said, no. لم يشكنا يعني لم يزل شكوانا. Yani he did not remove or find a solution to our complaint. So that's number one. Number two, the second point I want to say, what is the ruling in regard to the Muslim jurists? What did they say about delaying Dhuhr prayer until halftime or so? Yani delay Dhuhr when it becomes so hot. I mean, the hadith is obvious, but did everybody took this hadith and follow it and consider it something that should be followed? You see? So here, ulama rahimahullah, and what did they understand from the Prophet saying? Delay the salah. Ulama rahimahullah have three positions. The first position, which is not a very common position at all, but I'm mentioning it for a reason. Because this position will negate a claim that made by so many scholars in the past, which is the position of Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, the student of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He said that delaying the dhuhr when it's so hot is must and wajib. It's not sunnah, it's must. And many ulama in the past said there is ijma', consensus among the scholars that it is only recommended. Nobody ever said wajib, but that's wrong. Actually, there is people said wajib, and among them Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani rahimahullah ta'ala, the student of Abu Hanifa. The second opinion, and I don't know anyone else actually said that opinion other than him. Yani, I searched that and I couldn't find anyone else even picked that opinion from him, even among the Hanafiya. The second opinion, which is the overwhelming number of the scholars. Why the overwhelming number? Because the text is very clear. The evidence is very strong. Which is the majority of the companions, the successors, the fuqaha, the jurists, they said it is highly recommended for you to delay dhuhr when it's too hot, until things cool down a little bit. Question: can this situation be applicable to us today? Allah, and I can relate to that. I don't know about you, but many times, for example, my AC is not working in the house or is not cooling the house down, and it can be very, very hot in the house. Okay? And you have to wait until things cool down, even inside your house, until to cool down a little bit. In the beginning of Dhuhr, it can be very, very hot. Or you might be camping. So there is scenarios where, or you traveling on the road. Okay? You need to stop and to pray outside. So there is scenarios, maybe our masajid is not that of a problem, but there is certain scenarios where this ruling can be beneficial. So Al-Shafi'i, Ahmad, Ishaq, and Abu Hanifa, okay, the majority of the companions said it is highly recommended for you to delay dhuhr because of this hadith. When it's extremely hot, delay the salah until it cooled down. Also, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in Sahih al-Bukhari, من حديث المغيرة, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي الظهر في الهاجرة. He used to pray, pay attention to this, he used to pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time, when it's so hot. Okay? في الهاجرة. ثم قال أبردوا. Then later on he said, let's delay dhuhr. So he, in the beginning of his time, he used to pray dhuhr in the very early time, in the very hot. Then later on he said, let's delay dhuhr until it cools down, because the extreme heat is from the impact of the hellfire. And this hadith reported by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah and Ibn Hibban and others. And also there is another narration. It says, كان يصلي بالهاجرة ثم أمر بالإبراد. He used to pray in the extreme when it's very hot in the beginning of the time. Then he said, no, cool down. Another narration for it, he said, and this narration reported by Al-Khallal, and it's important narration to keep in mind, that كان آخر الأمرين من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الإبراد. The last thing that the Prophet used to practice, the last of the two that he used to practice, that he used to delay dhuhr when it is hot. So it means he used to pray it on the beginning of the time, then the last, basically he changed that, and he started praying it what? Later on. There is many ahadith came in regard to delaying. That's not only Hadith Abu Hurairah, Hadith Anas, Hadith Ibn Umar, many narrations, and as you heard, Hadith al-Mughira, and many others as well. But some of the fuqaha said, in order for you, some of those who said it's highly recommended, like Shafi'i for example. Shafi'i rahimahullah mentioned conditions himself. And the Shafi'iyya followed him in this. They said it is recommended to delay dhuhr, but taking consideration the following point or condition. Number one, it has to be extremely hot, not just hot. لَقَدْ شِدَّةُ الْحَرِّ, extreme heat. So out of the ordinary. Two, he said that this extreme heat happen in country where it is hot by nature. And I don't know why did he say that. I couldn't figure out what's the reason for him to say that. قال أن تكون البلاد حارة. And I do believe that the heat strike in countries where they're not used to high temperature is worse. That's right. You know, mashallah, we are in Houston here, 3 digits, for 3 months. Then I go to Manchester, and when it is like over there, 80. Oh my God, we're gonna die. I said, 80, that's where you go outside, like take a sun bath. Over there, people die just because it's 85 from the heat. So for me, I don't know, I still see a point really from him putting a condition that it has to be a country known to be hot. But that's what they put. 3, in order for you to delay dhuhr, he said, if you pray in congregation. And we will come to talk about this later on. Also, number 4, they said, the Shafi'iyya, that the masjid is far from your home. But if the people of the masjid are so near, they don't delay dhuhr. They pray it on, it's not recommended. Okay? And Nawawi rahimahullah, after he mentioned all this, he said, even the Nawawi Shafi'i, and some of these conditions mentioned by Imam Shafi'i himself, he said in Nawawi rahimahullah, as for the hadith, put one condition, which is extreme heat. He said everything else, no dalil for it, no proof for it. And he rejected it. He said we stick with what came in the hadith. The other ones are not conditioned. The third opinion, which is an opinion narrated by some of the early Muslim scholars, and also a position among some of the Shafi'iyya, they said no, you should pray dhuhr on time, doesn't matter cold or hot or extremely hot. You pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time. And they did not recognize this hadith saying, basically delay the dhuhr and it cools down. Why? They said because we do have evidence that the Nabi ﷺ did not practice that. For instance, they said, أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم في صحيح مسلم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray dhuhr after zawal al-shams. All the ahadith that describing the dhuhr prayer, it says that the Prophet prayed dhuhr after the sun moved from the middle of the sky, and in the beginning of the time. And we never heard that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself delayed the prayer, which is not true because we just mentioned a hadith that he did. Also they said that Khabbab said, Ya Rasulullah, would you give us excuse because the ground is so hot? He said, I have no excuse for you. They said, so that means they prayed when it is extremely hot. But this evidence really is not very strong. Why? Number 1, maybe they ask for the salah to be delayed after the time. Yani they asked the Prophet to delay Dhuhr until Asr time. And that's why he said no. Or this in the beginning, he said no. But later on it was abrogated and Allah made it easy for him. And we heard Hadith al-Mughira. He said in the beginning he used to pray in the beginning. Then later on he said, no, now you can delay until it cools down. So we say the Hadith Khabbab could be also abrogated. It's mansukh. And that's what Imam Ahmad rahimahullah said about this hadith. He said it's mansukh, it was abrogated. And he said, آخر الأمرين من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الإبراد. He said the practice that the Prophet did in the end of his life, that he used to wait until it cooled down. So he delayed Dhuhr sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is one understanding, but I'm not sure if it will make sense to you. شكونا إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم شدة الرمضاء فلم يشكنا. We complained to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم about the extreme heat of the ground when we pray. فلم يشكنا. He did not respond. That's how the famous translation. But some of the ulama قالوا فلم يشكنا يعني لم يحوجنا إلى الشكوى. يعني they said النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم he didn't respond to us because he gave us before we ask him. يعني before we said anything, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, when we approached him, said, Ya Rasulullah, it is so hot. We didn't even complete our complaint. He said, you don't need to worry about it. You know what? You didn't need to ask. You didn't need to complain. You know what? You can delay the prayer. So the hadith actually, they flip it. They said it shows that. I'm not very big fan of that from linguistic point of view. Anyway, because في بعض الروايات قال صلوا إذا زالت الشمس. Anyway, the famous opinion that they ask for the salah to be delayed after the time, like until Asr time. Also they said كنا نصلي الظهر مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. There is a hadith, they said we used to pray with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم الظهر, and it will be so hot that كان يضع أحدنا رداءه فيسجد عليه. It will be extremely hot, the ground, and we will put our garment on the floor to make sujood on it, because we cannot touch the floor. Okay? And this hadith, an authentic hadith from Bukhari or Muslim, in Hadith Anas. Can anyone here tell me how can you answer this hadith? What's the answer for this? How can we reconcile between these narrations and the concept of the Prophet said delay Dhuhr?
It's not too hot to pray right on time. It's really hot.
It is really hot. That's why they cannot touch the ground.
So if you touch the ground, it's like an iron.
But this is the case. Why didn't he told them delay the prayer? They still prayed while it is extremely hot. Before it was abrogated. So we said this narration was in the beginning of the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? It is before the abrogation. Number two, what the brother was mentioning earlier, he said, we just said it's recommended, it's not must. So it doesn't mean that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam every time he would have waited until it cooled down. Number three, that sometimes even when you wait until half of the time of Dhuhr, the ground can still what? Very hot and keep the heat. So there is no proof that this hadith means we're not allowed to delay Dhuhr until it cools down. Because you can wait until the end of Dhuhr time and it's still the ground hot. But you cannot wait until Asr. طيب. So that's why, Wallahu A'lam, it is recommended for us to delay Dhuhr until it is basically became cool a little bit, where you can pray comfortably, and because that will make it easy for people as well. Because the whole point is to make it easy for people. And I would say sometimes, even here, in Houston I didn't feel it so much, but I used to live in Saudi Arabia. I still remember last year in July I was in Kuwait. I still remember when I went outside the masjid in Kuwait, wallahi, I saw the asphalt, I see smoke coming out of it. And I said, what's the temperature? They said 50 degree. What's that in Fahrenheit?
135.
Oh, a lot, huh? 135.
Yeah, I was in Kuwait that
Yeah.
I saw 55 degrees.
55 degrees. Can you imagine? And I said, with AC, with everything, it's extremely hot. Because there, it's by the Gulf, so AC really doesn't work much when it's just so humid. And it's so, it's just so bad. So those people, I was saying at that time, why don't they follow the sunnah? They delay dhuhr. Why they have to pray like 10 minutes or 15 minutes after the adhan? So it is really make things easy. It could be also in Houston. Allah knows with global warming what's going to happen. So this hadith helped, I guess, if anything changed. But also, here another question, ulama rahimahullah said, until when you delay dhuhr? To cool down. Is there any specific? Some of the ulama rahimahullah said, you have to pray it in the first half of the time. Some said no, the second half of the time. Okay? And some give other details, but really there is nothing. The Prophet said until it cools down, as long as it's before Asr, it is good. And في hadith give us an idea. And this hadith أبي ذر رضي الله عنه في الصحيحين أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان في سفر وكان مؤذنه بلال. That the Nabi was traveling and Bilal was the mu'adhin. فقال له النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أبرد, wait, don't call for the salah now. Wait. فإن شدة الحر من فيح جهنم. The extreme heat is from the hellfire. And Abu Dhar said, we waited قال حتى رأينا فيء التلول. We waited until we saw the shade of التلول is the very small high rise of sand or rocks. It's literally something like this. That's high, like a handspan. You know what that means? In order to have a shade for something so small like this, that means the sun moves a lot towards Asr time. You understand? If it's something big, the shade comes quickly. But if it's something small like this, it means at least 2/3 of the time already gone. That's what some of the fuqaha rahimahumullah said. So, even some of the ulama said, there is another narration, it's problematic. In Sahih al-Bukhari, قال حتى ساوى الفيء ظله. Until the shade was in the same length of this little mount or high rise of sand. But if it's the shade in the same length of it, it means Asr time. But no, it's almost at Asr time. That's what this narration means. Okay? Or maybe Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because they were traveling, he delayed Dhuhr to pray it with Asr. Also, that's why he waited so late like that. Anyway, I do believe there is nothing any specific or clear about how long, but the only thing the Prophet said, until it cooled down. So as long as it's cooled down, alhamdulillah. Another question, do we delay Dhuhr for those who live far away from the masjid? How about if you come with your car, AC car, or your home is very near the masjid? Do you still sunnah for you to delay Dhuhr for such a group of people? Some of the ulama rahimahullah said, as long as it is hot, you delay it. And that's Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, Malik, Ishaq, Ibn al-Mubarak, Ibn al-Mundhir, some of the Shafi'iyya, Shawkani rahimahullah, he's known to be leans toward the Shafi'i a lot. Why? they said because the point is the same. When it's extremely hot, it's very uncomfortable to pray, it's very uncomfortable to walk and to get out of your home, to get to the masjid, to get out of the masjid. So you know what? You wait. Okay? It doesn't matter, you far or near. Far, that means doubled. But still, if you're near, you still will have suffering. So, and the point is to make it easy for everybody. And Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah said, no, only for those who are far away. If you pray by yourself, or you pray in a masjid in your neighborhood, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah قال, لا أحب أن يؤخر الصلاة. I don't like him to delay the prayer. Zain? And he said, and also by the way, some Maliki scholars said that. Why? They said because the illah, the reason the Prophet said wait until it cooled down, is the walking to the masjid. They said that's the reason why we delay dhuhr. Because walking to the masjid, while it is so hot like that, getting out of the house, going back, it is so hard for people, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ gave them the excuse. So they looked at the illah, the reason behind the hadith is because of the mashaqqa, the hardship that happened while you are walking to the masjid. But I will tell you that this argument is not very strong. Why? Because we just heard the hadith Abi Dharr, that he told Bilal while they are traveling together, don't call for dhuhr prayer yet until the sun comes down and it cooled down, because the heat is from hellfire. They are traveling together. There is nobody far away, nobody walking distance. They are all in one group. They are camping together. But still he said what? Wait. فَدَلْ عَلَى إِنَّ الْمَقْصُودِ لَيْسَ الْمَشِي. This hadith very clear narration that is not about walking or not walking to the masjid. They are all camping in one place. But he said wait until it cooled down, then we pray dhuhr. So that shows you that the illah, the reason is not the walking distance, near or far, or the hardship of walking. No, it is the salah itself. The salah itself. And that's why I do believe that there is no condition should be put except the extreme heat. And extreme heat can be different from one country to another. Also, Sharia did not put a temperature degree. So you know what, if Manchester for them 75 or 50 or 80 is too hot, good for them. You know, if some places maybe 100 is normal, 120 normal, 130 maybe normal, who knows. Other than extreme hot, a sunnah that we pray dhuhr on time. Can anybody tell me where we learned this from this hadith? This hadith shows us, one of the benefits of this hadith, that a sunnah to pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time. Do you agree? The question is, this hadith we just read, the hadith of Abu Hurairah, shows you that the sunnah to pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time. So the default is to pray in the beginning of the time. The exception to delay dhuhr, it's when it is very hot. So that's the exception. But the norm to pray what? On time. So from this hadith we learn that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnah is to pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time, like the rest of the salawat. The sunnah and the best time for it in the beginning of the time. Only if it is hot, you delay it. Yes?
I remember in the other class you had said that as long as you have enough time to say Allahu Akbar before the asr.
The sunnah, but not permissible or not. So the previous ahadith is talking about the beginning and the end. These ahadith talk about the best time for salah inside that beginning and end. Good point.
I heard this, is it the most beloved deed to Allah?
To pray in the beginning of the time, yeah. تقول عائشة رضي الله عنها ما رأيت أحدا كان أشد تعجيلا للظهر من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا من أبي بكر ولا من عمر. Aisha رضي الله عنها said, I did not see anyone pray dhuhr so early in the time like Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم and Abu Bakr and Umar. They pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time. They don't delay. Like there's no 1 hour, 25 minutes, to stuff like that. And shows you, I notice in masajid in Houston sometimes, people delay dhuhr a lot. So if there is really no need for it, the sunnah is to pray in the early beginning of the time of dhuhr. And also that shows you when you are by yourself, you pray dhuhr in the beginning of the time. Like sisters, brothers, at work, don't delay dhuhr. The sunnah is to pray dhuhr in a very early time. At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah reported this hadith, and he said, وَفِي الْبَابِ, in this regard, also Jabir, وَخَبَّابِ, وَأَبِي بَرْزَةِ, وَأَبِي مَسْعُودِ, وَزَيْدِ ibn Thabit, وَأَنَس, وَجَابِرِ ibn Samurah, all of them did the same. They used to pray dhuhr immediately at the beginning of the time. Yani adhan call, you pray the sunnah, then you pray immediately the dhuhr. You don't wait. طيب.
So
I have, yes.
if you're in a situation where your masjid delays the salah for like an hour.
The jama'ah is take precedence.
Okay.
Where we learn this from? Salat al-Isha, mashallah, excellent. Yeah, he said the best time to pray Isha late, but I'm not doing this because of people. When they gather, we pray in the beginning of the time. So he looked at the maslahah of Salat al-Jama'ah over the benefit of delaying the Salah. Excellent.
So basically, we can delay the prayers if we have Jama'ah, as long as it's during the time of the Salah.
Okay, I have a question for you. We'll make you fuqaha. Would you apply the same rules of dhuhr to Jum'ah? Should we delay Jumu'ah when it's extremely hot? Jumu'ah in the same time of Dhuhr. Should we delay it or not? I'll tell you a story. This man has 2 sons. They became extremely knowledgeable. They want to pay their fathers back. They said, Father, we're going to make you Shaykh al-Islam. We're going to make you the best Shaykh in town. How? I know nothing about religion. I know nothing. Barely know how to read Fatiha. I said, don't worry. We got all the ilm, everything in ilm, we have it. We will be sit like 2 lions next to you. You sit on the chair. Anybody ask you any question, said, وهذه المسألة فيها خلاف اختلف فيها العلماء على قولين وأترك لأولاد التفصيل. Anytime you ask questions, said, this issue, ulama rahimahullah debate over it, and there is 2 opinions about it. My children will tell you the details. But anything, we will 100% will guarantee you every single issue there is 2 opinions, at least. And the guy kept saying 1, 2, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, months. So some people noticed that never ever made any answer. Always referred to his son. So one of the students is smart. He said, I have a question, Sheikh. He said, yes. He said, Allah is 1 or 2? He said, this issue there is a debate over it and there's 2 opinions. His son said, no, Dad, khalas. So my point for bringing the story is, I told you, what do you think of Jumu'ah? So one of you can say, yes, Sheikh, there is, somebody can say yes, and somebody can say no, because there will be 2 opinions. But I would expect us to take you a little bit higher than that. Why yes, why no? Why you think the ulama who said yes, we should delay it, said that, and why the ulama said no, you should not delay it, said that? Yes. No, just, yeah. Which one are you going to take first? The one who said yes or no?
It's the one that said yes.
Yes. So we should delay it. Why would they say that?
Because it khutbah with it, so you could eat the time, it would just take 10 minutes or something, and then after sitting down, it could be reasonable.
But the khutbah is short. It's not like very long until it cooled down. It's like praying the sunnah and they pray the same thing. So the one who said yes, you should wait until it cooled down. They said what? Why would they say we apply? Because they said Dhuhr and Jumu'ah. Yes, sister? Yeah, the reason of delaying Dhuhr is the extreme heat. That reason applied to Jumu'ah as well. What's the difference? It's very uncomfortable to pray Jumu'ah, very uncomfortable to walk to the masjid, to sit in the masjid. So you should what? Delay it. But those who said, no, you should not delay it. Why? Yes? But that means you're putting a condition. The heat, in order for me to delay Dhuhr, it has to be constantly every day. We didn't put that as a condition. Yeah.
No, because the people are in the marketplace anyway and engaged during the time of Jumu'ah.
Even for Dhuhr time. See, when you're supposed to come to Jumu'ah, maybe the reason we didn't answer because we talk from min wahi al-waqi', because we talk about our own practice. But if you really go to the Sunnah practice, you'll find a big difference between us and the Sunnah practice. When you should come to Jumu'ah? Early. So if we say wait, you don't come to Jumu'ah after Dhuhr time comes. You come to Jumu'ah way before that. Hours and hours before that. So if we say abridu, wait until, so that means we're telling those who came early to the masjid, you guys punished and now you have to stay in that heat for all this time until near Asr, then we pray Jumu'ah. And the fuqaha said, that's not fair. That's suffering. So the illah, which is to make things easy, is not applicable to Jumu'ah. It's actually making things what? Worse, more difficult. So they said that's why Al-Jumu'ah should pray in the beginning of the time and we're done with it. Did you see how the fuqaha rahimahullah works? Okay. Bismillah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
One of the benefits of the hadith, it is so important to be connected with the akhirah. So Nabi Sallallahu want to remind us to think of hellfire when we see and feel the extreme heat. And that's not only applied to this, but in all our life. It's something means a lot that you are connected with the akhirah. How would you know that your heart, the akhirah is in your heart and your mind? Then when you see the nature around you and the things that happen to you, it connects you with the akhirah. So, when you see the heat of the sun and how it's so hot, you think the day where people will be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 50,000 years, and the sun will be so near to them. Can you imagine the sun is very far away from us now, and we couldn't take the heat? When the sun will be brought so near. So you reflect upon that. And this is something, it is important for the Muslim to train himself and herself to make that connection. يحكى أن رابعة العدوية, رابعة العدوية is a righteous woman, and a lot of people attribute lie to her. Otherwise, she's a righteous woman and she's a very knowledgeable. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when she was sick, he went and he visited her, and he said, "Idina Rabi'a, give us a reminder." فأرخت الستر, she put like a curtain. Can't imagine, she's laying down, she's sick. Then when she started talking, Imam Ahmad started crying, and he left because he doesn't want to show that reaction in front of people. Anyway, she saw the locusts, al-jarad, the locusts, in hundreds of thousands of them. You know how when they come? She cried, and she remembered the day of resurrection. Kal-jarad al-muntashir, Allah said, that we're going to look like that, like locusts when they come out of their, basically, when they come in groups. That's how human will come. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah was once in janazah, and he saw a group of people left the janazah and they went to the shade because the sun was very strong. He was in tears. They said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what have made you cry?" He said, "Those people, the heat of the sun, they couldn't take it, and they went to the shade to cool down. I thought about the hellfire. When people can't, the heat will be so strong, when they go to the shade of the hellfire, it will be worse than the no shade. Tarmi bisharrin kalqas." Just that scene itself connected him. Umar radiallahu anh, whenever he goes out to camp or when in the house and they start a fire and they put the twigs and the sticks to start the fire, and he sees that, يقول يا ابن الخطاب هل تصبر على هذا. He said, "Ya Umar, do you have a strength to deal with this?" It connects him. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ النَّارَ الَّتِي تُورُونَ أَأَنْتُمْ أَنْشَأْتُمْ شَجَرَتَهَا أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنْشِئُونَ نَحْنُ جَعَلْنَاهَا تَذْكِرَةً. قال العلماء تذكركم نار الآخرة. نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين. This fire that you made out of trees, we made it tadhkirah, a reminder, to remind you of the hellfire. And a mataa'a lil-muqwin, and a means and tools for the traveler to use, because they needed to see the road, to protect themselves, to cook their food, and so forth. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, this is the companions. This is Umar ibn Mas'ud. He passed by a blacksmith. When he saw the iron stick coming out of the fire, he cried, and they said this day was like ruined of him. Sometimes also the opposite. When people see beautiful scenes and beautiful time and it's good time, they said, Allahu Akbar, how Jannah will be. How Jannah looks like. So this connection of the Akhirah is so important in our life. And this hadith make us aware of that connection. Instead of us spending time, what that means, hellfire, the heat, just remind you of the Akhirah. What this means, fayhu jahannam. Al-fayh, this word in Arabic, it means wadin afyah, yani wasi'. The hellfire is so vast, so big, so huge, And because of the size of it, the impact of it is so big as well. The bigger the fire you have, the bigger impact in its heat. That's right. So the hellfire is so huge that because hellfire is very far away from us now. It's somewhere in the heavens, in the skies, somewhere in the sky. That's why it will be brought near to people on the day of judgment. So whatever it is far away from us right now, even some ulama said it's not in this sky, in this sama. It's in the seventh heaven. All what we see with telescopes, with discovery, with NASA and all this, it's just one sky. And there is 6 layers, we have no access to it. لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان. We have no access beyond this. Except Allah give permission like Muhammad ﷺ to go through, or Isa to go through. That's it. Or the soul of the believer to go through when he died. Can you imagine this millions and millions of years of traveling? Can you imagine the hellfire is much, much farther from that, but you still, because of the size of it, the impact of it reached to earth. So because of the fayh, يعني من سعتها. Okay? But the question here, ulama said, we know why summer is so hot. We know the season, the heat of the summer, when the Prophet said the extreme heat and the extreme cold are from the impact of the hellfire. That's why I like to translate impact. Okay? Why? We know it's about how far we are from the sun and how near from the sun. When the earth moves and the sun moves. You know, what's the angle of the suns onto earth? That's what determine the temperature, the pressure, the air pressure. These are what the fact that determine it is hot, it is so hot, it is, these are the factors that determine the extreme heat. So how can hellfire be the reason for that extreme heat? I'll start by something Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah said in التمهيد, which is very interesting. He said, قوله فأذن لها بنفسين نفس في الشتاء ونفس في الصيف دل على أن نفسها في الشتاء فهي غير الشتاء ونفس في الصيف فهو ليس الصيف. He said that breathing, that impact of it, once happened in the winter and once happened in the summer. It doesn't mean the summer is the result of the impact, or the winter is the result of the impact. No, it just that basically some of this extreme weather can be the impact of hellfire. But again, how? What this hadith means exactly? Al-ulama rahimahullah have a different way of looking into the narration. The first opinion, which is the weakest one of them, they said it's a metaphor. And this, you'll be surprised if I tell you it's the weakest, because it doesn't go with the Arabic language, the way Arabic language made. They said, and also because it contradicts the hadith is very explicit, that is not a metaphor. They said it's a metaphor. What they say? They said, the extreme heat of this sunny days feels like the heat of hellfire. That's what the metaphor is. But this doesn't work linguistically with the hadith in Sahih Bukhari. Ya Rasul, the hellfire said, Ya Allah, give me basically once in summer, once in the heat, to vent out. So he said, you vent out twice a year. One in the extreme cold, and you vent out the extreme heat. And that's what you feel, the extreme weather of heat or cold. He said, so that, the way the hadith is not a metaphor. And you cannot say, oh, it feels like. The hadith is very explicit. They ask for a nafas, to vent out, to release. Some ulama said, you know what, we take it literally. That extreme heat and extreme cold, it is literally from the hellfire. And they said this is basically literally from the hellfire. Nothing to do with sun, nothing to do with weather, nothing to do with the ozone, nothing to do with all this. It is the impact of hellfire. But to be honest with you, this also opinion, mukabara lil waqi'. you canceling your brain, you canceling your aql, you cancel science. Science is showing us very clearly that this is the result of 1, 2, 3. You can't say that. And I want to say that there is some even du'at, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they said, I would rather to deny the hadith than to accept this understanding. قال أنكر الحديث وعلى صحته ولا أقول بهذا. He said, I deny the hadith completely. Which is no need for that, يا حبيبي. إذا حدثكم عن رسول الله فظنوا به الذي وأهناه وأهداه وأتقاه. You don't need to deny the hadith, you just need to understand it right. 3. They said, some of the ulama rahimahullah said, that the sun that you have here, what is it? The sun actually was taken from the hellfire. It's a rock was taken from the hellfire. And the moon was, the moon also part of the hellfire. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, in the end of the days, تُجْمَعُ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ فِي النَّارِ. They go back to the roots. The sun and the moon goes back to the hellfire. So that's the size of the moon, that's the size of the rocks. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةِ. So they said, that's basically the moon and the sun are originally taken from the fire. Okay? إِنَّ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ مُكَوَّرَانِ فِي النَّارِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And أنتم إنكم وما تعبدون من دون الله حصب جهنم أنتم لها واردون. You and what you worship belong to the hellfire, because that's what, and which is the moon, the sun. So they said, so this hadith is nothing to deny the science, because the sun and the moon, which is control the weather, okay, basically are from the hellfire. So that's why the Prophet said, it is from the hellfire, because they are originally coming from the hellfire. You got it? That's third opinion. The fourth, they said that the heat of the sun impacted by the heat of the hellfire. Then the sun impact us. So it's not directly impacting us, the hellfire. 5, which is the opinion that I think it's the strongest opinion. Things have multiple reasons. The things that happen have multiple reasons. Some of these reasons are apparent. You can see it, you can measure it, you can point finger up to it, and some of them are hidden. ظاهر وغير ظاهر. Some of them I can understand, and some of them I don't. Many things in your body, ask any physicians about so many diseases that you say, I can tell you, how cancer happen, what do, what happen, but I don't know exactly why did you get that type of cancer. There's things beyond my ability to tell you. Or maybe you have 1, 2, 3 reasons. Later on you find 4 or 5 reasons you do not aware of. That's any scientist, any person knows science, understand this fact. That things happen for multiple reasons. So they said that some of the reasons that beyond what we are familiar with, known through the Sharia, known through a knowledge beyond the knowledge of human being. And our knowledge tell us why the heat happened, why the extreme heat and extreme cold happened. That's what we know. But also we don't deny these as reasons. But also we have other reasons impacted, just we have no knowledge of. And there is no contradiction between the two. I can tell you, you get sick. It can be ayn, an evil eye, but also it can be a virus. And there's no contradictions. Why it has to be contradicting each other? It could be both. Sabab zahir wa sabab khafi. An apparent reason and hidden reason. Okay. So that's wallahu a'lam. I think it's the strongest argument, because there's no contradiction between the two. And that's what Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Sa'idi rahimahullah have said. We done just quickly. This hadith shows you that the hellfires exist, because Mu'tazila said does not exist yet. Also, this hadith shows that the rules of Sharia take in consideration the ability of people. Because he delayed the salah because of extreme heat. So that's also an important lesson that we should learn. That whenever we put rules or we make, legislations, or it should take in consideration the need of the people and to make things easy for them. That's how the Sharia is built, and that's how rules should be built as well. Allah alam, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Next week, inshallah, we continue with the next hadith.